Today's episode is sponsored by Worm Return, using food scraps to create landscapes, not landfills. Hey everybody, welcome to With Bowl and Spoon. I'm your host, Shelly Danko Day. How's everybody doing? I know, it's mind-numbing out there. I'm not going to get into that. Let's shift gears. What am I thinking about this week? Well, it's spring and the flowers are blooming. We got daffodils, tulips, irises, hyacinths popping up everywhere. But what's even more exciting is that I have spotted 7 edible plants in my garden that I can harvest right now. Well, we can harvest a little bit of it, not a ton, but I have sorrel, lovage, celery, horseradish, arugula, mint, and garlic chives. Isn't that amazing? Speaking of plants, this reminds me of a fascinating book I recently read called The Light Eaters by Zoe Schlanger. It's all about how plants harness light to create food and sustain life on Earth. Schlanger writes that plants have made every bit of food we've ever consumed. A leaf is the only thing in our known world that can manufacture sugar out of materials, light and air, that have never been alive. It's incredible. There's also a wild story in the book about a sea slug called the Elysia chlorotica. It starts its life as a regular brown sea slug with some red dots on it, and then it eats this algae and transforms. It becomes green, its whole body turns green and gets flat like a leaf, and it actually begins to photosynthesize just like a plant. And it doesn't have to eat anymore. It survives by eating sunlight directly. Nature's so amazing. I want to see one of those sea slugs in person one day. Everything just feels so alive right now with the plants sprouting everywhere. And I know farmers have larger quantities of the plants that are growing in my backyard, but there's only one farmer's market open at the moment, the Sewickley Farmers Market on Saturdays. Can we just talk about how frustrating it is, the Bloomfield Saturday Market? And I find myself whispering about this because I feel bad. I love the Bloomfield Saturday Market. But why do they close the entire month of April? They do a winter market twice a month, January, February, March. It's miserable those months. And then they just stop in April when farmers have stuff growing. It's so wacky. It's so close to being a year-round market. Come on, Bloomfield, you can do it. Anyway, that has me thinking about farmers, and that leads me to today's episode and my guest, Ron Gaydos from Keystone Development Center. Ron develops cooperatives of all kinds, not just food co-ops, but also unique ventures like the Third Space Bakery in Garfield. And he's working on a co-op of urban growers in the Pittsburgh area. So I'm very excited about that. During our conversation, Ron explains how all of these co-op models work and how they can benefit communities. So if you're curious and want more information after listening, you can reach out to Ron directly. I have his information in the show notes. All right, enjoy our talk.
Hi, I'm Ron Gaydos. I'm the Cooperative Development Director for KDC, which stands for Keystone Development Center. It's a nonprofit consultancy that works in Pennsylvania and surrounding states to form cooperatives of all kinds.
So Pennsylvania, Ohio,
West Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland.
So all of the ones,
Yeah.
all around the entire state. So you work statewide.
Yeah, we work mainly virtually. The blessing and curse of Zoom made it possible to reach a lot more people much farther. We do work with plain sect Amish farmers mainly and food businesses, so they don't do Zoom, and they're very good though at communicating and navigating systems so that we can talk with them as we need to help them form their cooperatives. We've done 3, 4, 5 with Amish folks in dairy and vegetable produce and food businesses.
So it's not a high-tech thing that you're talking about, this forming cooperatives. It doesn't have to be high-tech, but it can be.
It can be. The main technology we work with is social software, how people get together and make decisions and be productive.
So how did you get started? Is this your business, or is this something you
It's
entered
been
into?
we're in our 25th year now. So it was started 1999, really ran in 2000, and it worked mainly at first with farmers in Pennsylvania, and has been able to grow its service area since then to the neighboring states as well. So it's a nonprofit organization. It's mainly concerned with the process of cooperative formation, and so there's a lot of business development in it, financial analysis, organizing, working on governance, even the legal aspects of running a business and a cooperative. Because so many people say, what's a cooperative? The food co-op, right? That's one of 5 types. And it is one of the most numerous, though, consumer co-ops. We see that people need to learn more about cooperatives. A big part of our programming is what we call Co-op Academy. And actually, you joined in on one of our cohorts a couple years ago. Yeah. And that's to help, just to bring knowledge of cooperatives, what they are, what the traditions are in America. They go back to 1700s with Ben Franklin starting an insurance company, the Mutual Fire Insurance Co-op in Philadelphia, and 1819 in Pittsburgh, where a bunch of artisans joined together to buy materials together and rent a space for sales and production and sales around Market and First Avenue, downtown. Credit unions, like utility co-ops in rural areas, most people get their electricity from an electrical co-op. There's even water cooperatives here and there, all over the place. So those are consumer cooperatives, and then there's a producer cooperative, and these are very present in the food industry for the need for small independent farmers or food producers to market their products to a larger market. Land O'Lakes is really one of the biggest ones. It's a multi-billion-dollar co-op. So farmers sell milk to Land O'Lakes, and then Land O'Lakes takes it from there and makes the buttermilk and cream and all the other things they do. Organic Valley works the same way. One of the advantages to that is, again, democratic control. Members help elect the board and major policies and things like that. Others are Welch's grapes. Sunkist is another one. Let's see, for producer co-ops, the farmer co-ops, the last USDA report had the average age of about 75 years for farmer co-ops, and they go back 100, 120 before the turn of last century. So they've really engaged and helped to sustain small farmers for that long.
Like the East Liberty Farmers Market Cooperative.
Yeah, that's now 65 years old.
They've had the building since 42, and that was why they bought it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's much older than. Yeah, East Liberty Farmers Cooperative is a pretty good example of farmers coming in, selling their food, and it's a stable and consistent place for them to sell, and they get that support, and there could be marketing as well. There's several dairy co-ops, as I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. One spun off. It was an Amish dairy farm in Chester County, and it got so large that many farmers decided to start their own, so now there's a second one. A worker cooperative, that is where the workers own the business. So there's examples of that in food co-ops, some food co-ops, Minnesota, Philadelphia, where the workers do own it. New England as well. There are advanced manufacturing companies, one in Wisconsin called Isthmus Engineering that makes automated process equipment. And another kind of consumer co-op is a housing co-op, and there are about 8 in the Pittsburgh area. The biggest one is Fifth and Craig, University Square. Those are 2 co-ops, both buildings, or each one is one co-op, just because of the stages of being built.
Oh, the big high-rises.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Instead of buying the property, the co-op owns the property, but members buy shares for membership, which is determined by the size and features of the apartment, or the other, whatever else they're buying shares for. That gives them the right to be there, and it's like secure tenure, just like owning it, but they own the shares.
Yeah.
And realtors are, they get that for the most part, because when they're bought and sold, they're advertised for a certain price, but then when you say, okay, I want that, they explain, okay, you're buying shares, not the property itself. And it's a co-op, so the co-op, they have certain rules for how you live there, how you use the property, and some are pretty laid back and others get really strict. It depends on how they are. Another one is Chatham Village up on Mount Washington. That's one.
Oh yeah, a friend of mine lives up there.
Yeah.
She loves it.
And there's 2, 3 that were financed by HUD. Belmar Gardens is well known up in Homewood behind Apple Street, where the National Negro Opera House is being restored.
I know you from the food world.
Yeah.
Is your specialty food cooperatives?
No.
Okay.
We work in food, farmer, housing, investment co-ops. Investment co-ops can be used for very many things. That's kind of like a producer co-op. We just put them in that bucket right now. So the members pool their investment for whatever they decide in their charter to do. So it could be one we help to start is in Northeast PA, and they do renewable energy installation. So they invest in that. So they build the installation, and then they sell the electricity.
This all sounds very complicated. And how long have we known each other, Ron?
20 years. Yeah.
And I still feel like I'm talking to you about what you do, and it still seems like there's just a big pile of letters and numbers over my head just trying to sort out what you do. So,
yeah. So
I'm so glad that it's clear to you and that it makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into this? How did you get involved in this? And then what are you focused on? What sort of things would make you be like, oh, I should talk to that person? Because sometimes I say something and you're like, oh, they should talk to me. And I'm like, where did that come from? I have no idea what it was that caught your attention to that. So yeah, explain that to me.
So I guess if there was a one-word description for what I do, I would say builder. That's always what I've done. I graduated from Pitt, and I was really interested in development, and I thought, I don't know anything about development. I should do something and develop things. So I bought a bunch of tools and became a carpenter. I was the friendly neighborhood carpenter for a few years, and then I started doing things that I could say, oh, this relates to this part here goes here, and that then affects this part of the room. And before I knew it, I was a general contractor rehabbing houses.
What was your degree in?
Politics and philosophy at Pitt. Yeah, so I did bookcases.
Wow.
And then furniture, and then kitchens, and then rehabbed the house. Up the street there at Friendship and Fairmont, I rehabbed that house and restored the Georgian Revival outside, and made a 3-apartment or 4-apartment house into 2, and then rebuilt the Georgian Revival front porch. So it looks like it was always there, but it had been rotted on, torn down back, before we got there. So
thank you
we redid it
so much, because there's so many beautiful structures like that just get, removed and forgotten about. So yay, thank you.
Really, that was a big win. And then I decided, I would like to rebuild neighborhoods. So I didn't have enough money to become a developer that runs in and buys up a lot of property and build things. So I thought I'd figure out how to do that. So I went to the Heinz School at Carnegie Mellon for economic development and urban planning. That was the track. And then studied major finance, statewide and government-wide, major, large organization finance, things like that, and did the kind of a capstone project for brownfield development. So now we're talking about what to do with an old steel mill that's closed down. So the first project out of school was the Cary furnace.
Wow. So for listeners who don't know, if you've never been to an old steel mill site, they're freaking huge. I mean, huge. You can't even fathom. I guess you can, but how many acres is that?
That's 115 on both sides of the river.
It's so huge, yeah.
And the furnaces themselves, there's about 20 acres. The push I did with the team was, let's reintegrate it into the neighborhood. So connect it so that there isn't a railroad crossing, and connect it as many places as we can, which is still a challenge. One of the projects I worked in later was the Manchester Bidwell greenhouses. So hydroponic tomatoes and orchids, and we were even starting to talk about Arctic char. Bill Strickland, he thought really creatively, really big, and he was just getting all kinds of things going. The fish aren't happening yet, but I'd say that might be something that does. Yeah, but that was another great project. Moving from that, I had a job in Braddock one of the nonprofits there, and my job was to try to integrate real estate development with some social initiatives and also learning initiatives with the library, which was cool. We had a project called Community 2.0, where people could just talk about anything they wanted. We did mini podcasts, mainly just for the circles around there. And that's when I got to meet a bunch of people from Grow Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Jeff Yeager and others were there at the time at the Braddock Urban Farm. You were there too,
uh-huh.
Greg?
Yeah, I helped
that
to
may
build
be
the
where
greenhouse.
we reconnected.
So many circles.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is such a small town, really. When did you get involved with the Keystone Development Center?
Well, I left the group in Braddock and then worked with a company in Columbus that was about technology commercialization, which was really, really cool. I worked on the economic impact of the Human Genome Project and what could be done with the carbon resources in West Virginia besides burning it, so carbon fiber, material science, and things like that. That was really pretty cool. And I was glad to be able to help out with those.
And what was your part in that?
I was a senior research scientist. Yeah, the economic impact of various things and potential for repurposing industries.
Gotcha. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that was. And I left there because I wanted to just be more local.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back to Pittsburgh. But I did some consulting with Neighborhood Allies and some other groups. And since I've always had a problem with authority, I said, I've always liked cooperatives. I had some training right after I graduated from college with the E.F. Schumacher Society. E.F. Schumacher wrote a book called Small is Beautiful. And I met Bill Mollison. He was at the same seminar, who's the founder of the Western discipline of permaculture. So that was pretty cool. So just learning about how these ecosystem services of the earth can be put to use, but stewarded too. So that was a big part of how my thought evolved, I think. So went back to that, and I thought let's just start something. What should we call it, folks? We had 3 other people, the Pittsburgh Chamber of Cooperatives. So we started that, and we worked with a few people coming together to start businesses, co-op businesses. We first did a little education, workshop series for a couple of years to be able to let people know what they are, and then start building alliances with different groups in the area, like the Ujima Collective and Black Urban Gardeners and Farmers. And then we worked with a group of Afghan women who wanted to start a catering business, so we helped guide them into formation of a worker co-op catering business. Zaffaran is the name they're using. Yeah, so that was cool. So, and then I said, well, the Pittsburgh Chamber of Cooperatives is really nice, but there's other groups that are doing a lot more than we are, so let's connect with them. So that's when I introduced myself to the folks at KDC and said, here's where we are. We're working in Pittsburgh on some things, and if you like representation on the board from Western Pennsylvania, because they didn't have it at the time, I'd be glad to join. So I was elected to the board and was on the board for about 4 years and kept on my consulting. But then KDC needed some more cooperative development people. So I said, okay, I'll leave the board and I can join that way. And so they said, yeah. So that's what I did.
Hey Pittsburgh, want to reduce your carbon footprint but don't have the space to compost? Meet Worm Return, your neighborhood, woman-owned, socially responsible composting service. Worm Return provides the containers, picks up your food scraps at your house, and turns them into nutrient-rich soil amendments. Plus, you get personalized consultations and reports on your environmental impact. Join the movement to keep food scraps out of landfills. Call Worm Return today and start composting the easy way. Sign up today at wormreturn.com. Worm Return, using food scraps to create landscape, not landfills. I know you have a deep understanding of food system work. You have been able to use that knowledge and that depth of knowledge in your job. And I guess you didn't go to that job specifically for that, but that comes with you as part of this. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I've always been a system head. I
Okay.
really like to see how things fit together. I mean, since the time I was little, I was always taking things apart and putting them back together, fixing my own stuff and things like that. So I was one of the few people in high school who was, on that super academic track that also took shop. So for instance, the Cary Furnace and the Mon Valley itself, when you want to talk about redeveloping and bringing it back to what, or bringing it up anyway, you need to talk about transportation, workforce, finance, land use, administration, all those kinds of things. And so that's what, that was like, whoa, that was exciting. We wanted to do it this way. And we got support to do that from county leadership at that time. So now it was like 2004 or 5. Also with work with neighborhood allies, they like looking at neighborhood development pretty comprehensively. Treating, it's kind of medical, but it's like gardening to look at the whole person and where they're at, to be able to strengthen them and strengthen their community. So when I started to work with producer co-ops, I could see we have to look at what their market is, where their food is coming from, where their inputs are, what their methods, how they are. But some people came to us and brought a lot of knowledge, the farmers especially. We work with a grass-fed beef co-op. In about 3 months, I got to be really knowledgeable about grass-fed livestock production and grazing and things like that, just from being educated by the co-op members and also a couple of conferences along the way. We got a grant from the Agricultural Marketing Service to connect food hubs in the Allegheny Mountain region. We just said, okay, all these farmers are doing okay, but some dairy farming especially, is declining there. What can we do to make it more profitable for them so they're just not producing more and been losing more?
So hold on, just a second. What do you mean by food hubs?
Oh, a food hub is it could be a distribution center, basically, yeah. And so we use that sort of loosely for a distribution center, a cooperative, marketing cooperative where food goes in, an aggregator. Now we're working with 6 food hubs in the Alleghenies region, 3 of which are official cooperatives.
And that's a current project?
That's a current project, yeah. We have a second phase of funding that we were awarded in October to work on. The 3 choices for making a food system more efficient and profitable would be to build up more food hubs, or maybe a flagship food hub that would provide support services for the whole group of food hubs and bring in logistics and things like that too. That's really expensive. That would have been multi-million, $10-15 million prospect, and maybe that'll happen in the future, but that doesn't help right now. So we had another one where we just add a food hub strategically placed to be able to serve the network better. But that still was more than we wanted. We wanted to try something right away, so we're working on a virtual food hub network, which is connected by a sales platform.
Give them more power to be able to reach more people.
They'll have more power. They'll have access to much larger markets, institutional markets, restaurant chains, things like that. But it's still local food, but it serves a much larger market and larger customers. So part of that will be helping them to operate more efficiently, so those savings can go to their bottom line and they don't have to worry so much about accepting lower prices for wholesale distribution.
You're saying what they could do is pool their resources together to be able to provide enough food for schools,
hospitals, restaurants,
yeah.
Nursing homes, the VAs, in the area. Universities, there's 3 or 4 there.
And that's the missing link there.
Yeah.
To be able to scale up like that.
The scale is one thing. Certifications, sometimes for public sales, they have to have new certifications, different certifications to do that. So we would want to coordinate access to that with existing resources and then add them if need be.
Wow, that's exciting for our region.
And what we're working on now, in partnership with the Pittsburgh Foundation and several urban farmers here, is an urban agricultural aggregator marketing co-op that can help all the urban farmers sell to larger customers, serve local markets, and even provide farms, markets that are already associated with some of the urban farmers in the area.
It's got to be tricky for a small farm that's like worked. I don't know if you have any small farms that have worked to make a name for themselves, but do they lose their identity when they?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where Lawrenceville is. That was an independent municipality at one time.
Oh.
But
if you become a farm that's just supplying this cooperative with food to go out to customers that you never see, there's that disconnect.
Yeah. There's ways of customizing the membership so that they can retain the customer base they have and the loyalty and just visibility that they have with serving the larger food hub network.
So they'll still be at my farmer's market?
Mm-hmm. Probably, okay. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's why we like it decentralized like that, because all the members of the Central PA Produce Cooperative, 30 or so Amish farmers, are still going to be part of that community. The 30 or so, 20 farmers of the Clarion River Organics Cooperative. Clarion River Organics is a separate business run by the guy who owns Three Rivers Grown, but now the farmers that sell to Clarion River Organics are forming a cooperative. That's the third one.
That's really cool. That's exciting. Because I mean, I've been around the scene for many, many years, and I've seen a lot of these businesses start up and evolve and change, and haven't gotten them on my podcast yet, but I will.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the South Hills.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. But I was born in Mount Oliver. But when I was really little, they moved out there.
The little hole in the city.
Yeah, the donut hole in the city, yeah.
And for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, it's not part of the city of Pittsburgh, but it's right surrounded by neighborhoods in the city of Pittsburgh. So it's when you see a map of the city of Pittsburgh, there's this hole, and that's Mount Oliver. It's not actually a hole.
That's Mount O, yeah. I grew up on Nantucket. But I like to out-snob some snobs sometimes, I say that, but it's Nantucket Drive in Pleasant Hills. And right behind us was a wooded slope that was, they decided not to build any more houses there, so that was our stomping grounds for the longest time. So we tried, gardening on the edge, climbing all the trees, having little, forts and hideaways and things like that out there. So I really got a real strong affinity and bond with the land and nature there. I remember wandering around the woods when I was 4, all by myself.
Wow.
And trying to remember where my house was.
Wow.
And I found my way back, yeah.
It's incredible to have that memory of being 4 and also being lost. That must have been the traumatic, like, oh my God, I'm lost. That made you remember that.
For a minute, I was like, and then I just remembered. All the houses are uphill.
Oh, so you just went uphill.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What was it like growing up on Nantucket Drive?
Yeah, Nantucket. Well, in the neighboring borough were my grandparents, and they were peasants in Slovakia and farmers.
Do you know where in Slovakia?
Bezrovce.
Oh, okay.
Way over, like 10 kilometers from the Ukraine. So my grandfather's mother died, unfortunately, when he was young, and his father remarried. The stepmom insisted that her son be the heir. So my grandfather, poor Janos, was didn't have any place to settle into there in Bezovce, and wandered around in Hungary and Austria, Slovakia, and Ukraine too. He ended up learning Polish, Hungarian, German, Slovak he knew, and Czech, just because he was wandering around there. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was kind of grinding to a stop, so it was just easy to get around all the places. But he didn't find any place to settle in. He didn't, get real work, or I'm not sure what careers were like back then. But he decided to go to the U.S. But just before that, he married my grandmother.
Is she also from?
Yes, from the same village. They were in an arranged marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She stayed there while he tried to find his way. So he went to New York, Eastern PA, worked in mines. Pittsburgh, worked in the mills. He discovered that insurance companies needed somebody to speak all the languages of the immigrants in the neighborhoods. So he said, I know them. So he went around the city servicing all the insurance policies. I think in those days, you could mail it in, but probably what you did, the insurance person made the rounds and collected premiums and kept the records up to date and stuff like that. So that's where he was in all the ethnic neighborhoods in the city.
That's cool.
Yeah. So after that, his career was insurance. So he got established, and then he went back one more time, and he and my grandmother started their family with my uncle.
Here?
There.
There?
Yeah, he was born there.
Okay.
And then he came back and then got a little bit more, established, and then he sent for her. So she came back by herself with my uncle, and then settled in Mount Oliver, built a house, and moved to the South Hills. That's when I knew them. And then they had a pretty big yard, and then half of it was the garden. Mm-hmm. And anytime anybody showed up there, Grandma and Grandpa would trundle them out there and say, how about these peppers? How about the tomatoes? The grapes are doing pretty well, aren't they? And everything. So, I was like...
Showing off their successful garden.
Yeah, and it was... before you got into the garden, there were 2 rows of peonies, which are always, blooming at the right time in the summer.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then beyond that was the vegetables, and beyond that was the grapevine.
So that's your dad's family?
Mm-hmm.
And then what about your mom's family?
Still. They were all steel. My great-grandfather came to start up steel mills and blast furnaces.
From where?
Wales.
Oh, okay.
Swansea, that's where they were from. So they have a tradition of bards in my mom's family. Bards were like church singers at that time, like mid-1800s up to the turn of last century. So one guy, Perlannog, was really well known. He traveled around singing and writing hymns and poems for all the congregations. Something motivated my great-grandfather to come to Pittsburgh, but that's what he did. He traveled around a lot in the Northeast on major projects when they were starting up blast furnaces and things like that. And the last one he did was in Pittsburgh.
And that's where he settled.
So he retired in Pittsburgh, and that's where they settled, yeah.
Cool.
And then so the 11 kids, I think they ran out of names because one was named Thomas.
So what was food like growing up? What did you...
Yeah.
What do you remember?
Well, the Slovak cuisine was really traditional. Pigs in a blanket, stuffed peppers, pierogies, just real simple roast with lots of onions and potatoes. That was, what I remember. And fruit, they had a peach tree, so we had peaches. One of the traditions that we had was that the industrial packaged glitzy food, kind of cut on my mom's side. And since traditionally she was the one who did most of the cooking at home, so I think as a convenience, there was a lot of that. And tons of my friends and neighbors were into real packaged food and everything like that. But here and there were some people who just came to Pittsburgh from rural areas. They had gardens and they did fresh food a lot more. And one of my neighbors was kind of our surrogate grandparents, even though we had grandparents just a few minutes of a car ride away. The ones next door were just great. We were in and out of their house all the time and had the garden, and he went hunting and fishing, so we often had venison and pike to eat. So that was great. It was kind of like living off the land. That's pretty cool. And I just had a sense that it was doable rather than, if it's not wrapped in plastic, forget it.
So you had that perspective, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, stayed with me forever. I've always had a garden. Even, tomatoes are always a struggle because late blight does them in all the time, but I get a bunch before it hits. Yeah, my fig tree is doing okay this year.
It's like tropical, right? Yeah, it's like the Mediterranean now. Is there anything coming up that you want to talk about? Anything new that you've got going on? What's next for
what we want to do?
Gaydos and KDC?
Yeah, we are planning a meeting of urban growers here in Pittsburgh, and we really want to make sure all the BIPOC urban growers know about it because they usually have a the problem of less access to land, or there's problems with that. You know, if you read Lisa Freeman's book, "We Don't Want an Effing Farm on Our Street," you know, that's indicative.
And for listeners who don't know, BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, People of Color.
Right, thanks.
Acronym, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one thing that, you know, we want to be able to convene as many people as possible, but also not related to food, but in the construction industry. There's an opportunity to be able to do worker-owned construction business, I think, just by all the tradespeople that are out there trying to find consistent work with larger projects, or, you know, some of the big public projects. So we would like to help a lot of construction folks.
Would that be similar to a union, kind of in competition with a union?
Not necessarily. Would be in competition with the union sometimes, but some depends on the developer or the project sponsor's priorities. Sometimes they say, we're going to use union, or they have to, and that's always a good thing. Others may not. And there are such things as worker cooperatives whose members are affiliated with the union. There's a few of those in Cincinnati and around the country. There's another one up in New England called Works, WORX.coop, and that's a apparel company.
Cool.
And they're USW members as well as worker owners. That's a possibility. Yeah. Just want to put things together so the workers have access to larger projects, and because of being a co-op, they'll have more say over their working conditions, the projects they take, and compensation, things like that, and how they make decisions. You know, one of the fun questions in co-op world is who decides who decides?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What other sort of industries are you looking for that might be able to use your services? So growers?
Food processors.
Processors.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, what would be great for the grower co-op is to have a shared facility for processing and even sales, distribution.
I'm trying to think of the name of that. It's like canning?
Oh, co-packing.
A co-packing, yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea too, so that
and we need more co-packing facilities where you take your product and you take your recipe and then they make it for you and package it and label it and have it ready to sell. Yeah,
there's a co-packer in one of our, a proprietary and a co-packer in our network up in the Alleghenies. Stello Foods makes their own product, but they'll also label it for others too as they come in.
But that is something that's lacking, is the co-packing in this region.
Yeah, there's another one that may be shaping up in Johnstown. So, yeah, that's another candidate.
So where can people find you, Ron, if they want to, and why would people want to find you?
So there would be many reasons why you want to talk to me. One is if you're interested in forming a cooperative. One, if you're interested in the Food Hub Network in the Alleghenies. You know, I know the podcast is probably reaching far beyond Pittsburgh. Then that would be a good reason to get in touch. If you're an urban grower in Pittsburgh and you would like to join the network of urban growers that we're putting together, get in touch before too long, especially before the growing season goes crazy.
Now would be the time, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that at ron@kdc.coop, C-O-O-P. That would be great, and I'd be glad to hear from you.
Well, thanks, Ron. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah. I'm glad we could talk, yeah.
Everyone knows that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon. Everyone knows that food is cool. No secret. Eat that food with a bowl and spoon. Bowl.
With Bowl and Spoon is written, produced and hosted by Shelley Danko Day.
And spoon.
Original theme song was written and performed by Paul LeBreeze and friends. You can listen to With Bowl and Spoon wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, review and share. Follow us and send us questions or messages on Facebook and Instagram at With Bowl and Spoon. Thanks for listening.